Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam.
Okay.
Yeah, so many things we could say. Just having a chilled out read on the settee instead of being outside, which is cold and a bit damp.
Yes. Okay, it's Canto 3, Chapter 32, Text 23.
26, I think.
Oh, because we read by the lakeside. I didn't have the book.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Text 26. The Supreme Personality of Godhead alone is complete transcendental knowledge, but according to the different processes of understanding, he appears differently, either as impersonal Brahman, as Paramatma, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or as the Purusha Avatar. Purport. The word Drishi Adibi is significant. According to Jiva Goswami, Drishi means Gyan, philosophical research. By different processes of philosophical research under different concepts, such as the process of Gyan Yoga, the same Bhagavan or Supreme Personality of Godhead is understood as impersonal Brahman. Similarly, by the Eightfold Yoga system, he appears as the Paramatma. But in pure Krishna consciousness or knowledge and purity, when one tries to understand the absolute truth, one realizes him as the Supreme Person. The transcendence is realized simply on the basis of knowledge. The words used here, Param Atmeshvara Humam, are all transcendental, and they refer to Supersoul. Supersoul is also described as Purusha, but the word Bhagavan directly refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is full of 6 opulences: wealth, fame, strength, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. He is the personality of Godhead in different spiritual skies. The various descriptions of Paramatma, Ishvara, and Puman indicate that the expansions of the Supreme Godhead are unlimited. So there's different aspects to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But according to our surrender and our knowledge thereof, we see him accordingly. It's like Prabhupada gives a nice example of the CEO of an empire or business, and he's seen as the big boss and all the different employees under him, are under his influence or control, and then he's seen as just in his mother's eyes, no matter how old he is, that's just my little boy. And then in the eyes of his teenage kids, it's just, Dad's just silly. Dad, just give me the money I want. Why are you talking to me? Yeah, and that could be compared to different types of devotees. So some devotees see Krishna, like to worship him as, Bal Gopal, baby Krishna. He's the absolute truth. But they'll always seem like that. And if you try to say, no, he was on the Battle of Kurukshetra, or look, this grown-up size form. No, he's just my little Gopal, and I have to go home and give him his little fruit and hot milk. Otherwise, he's just a baby. And then you can get devotees that keep coming to the temple repeatedly. I want to get married, or I'm trying to go for this promotion. in praying in that way, oh, I need to pass these exams, won't see these people in between, or definitely, when I say definitely, most likely won't see them if they get the objects of their desires, just as the ungrateful teenager doesn't really see the sacrifices of the parent and how they feel while they come in just, the bank of dad, as it were. And then there will be others who will just understand the sacrifices and what this person has gone through, in the same way can understand these different aspects of the Supreme Lord, and therefore increase their respect and love for that person as a result of knowing that.
Wow, powerful. Nice explanation. I just had some questions around the word Paramatmeshwara and Pumam. In the word-for-word translation, they both stand for super soul, but it seems a little confusing to me, because of course Paramatma, Ishvara, Pumam. Anyway, I was just wondering about that. We'll read the next paragraph. Ultimately, to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one has to accept Bhakti Yoga, which we know, Bhakti Mam Abhijanati, can only be understood by the performance of Bhakti. By executing Jnana Yoga or Dhyan Yoga, one has to eventually approach the Bhakti Yoga platform. And then Paramatma Ishvara Puman. See there, it does it again. Paramatma Ishvara Puman. And the word for word, Puman, I'm thinking Puman may be the, because it was a fourth thing, the Purusha avatar. But let's see. Approach Paramatma, Ishvara, Pumam, etc. are all clearly understood. It is recommended in the second canto of the Bhagavatam that whether one is a devotee or fruitive actor of liberationist, if he is intelligent enough, he should engage himself with all seriousness in the process of devotional service. It is also explained that whatever one desires, which is obtainable by fruitive activities, even if one wants to be elevated to higher planets, it is also explained that whatever one desires, which is obtainable by fruitive activities, even if one wants to be elevated to higher planets, can be achieved simply by execution of devotional service. Since the Supreme Lord is full in 6 opulences, he can bestow any one of them upon the worshipper. So the verse that's being alluded to here is the Akama Sarvakamo Va Mokshakama Udara Dihi verse. And I think it's 1, 2, 10, no, 1, I can't, 1, 3, 10 maybe. Anyway, if you know it, you can put it in the comments, but it's that verse, which basically says, Sarvakama, if you have full of desires, all kama, Sarvakama, moksha kama, if you desire liberation, or if you akama, if you have no material desires, you should still approach Krishna. So like that. And that means to approach Krishna, you have to go through the process of devotional service. But I like this last point at the end. Because Krishna is full of all 6 opulences, he can give whatever to anyone. Imagine that, your father is, what's that guy's name from Amazon? Isn't he like one of the richest people in the world now? Benzo or Benozo? Jeff Bezos, something like that. Imagine that's your dad, and you're like, Dad, can I have a packet of crisps? Hello, you can have the whole crisp factory if you like. Why don't we buy walkers for you, kind of thing, So, what can't God give us if he feels like we deserve it and he wants to deliver it to us? But as Srila Prabhupada used to quote Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and say, First we should deserve, then we should desire. But often we desire, but we don't really deserve what we're desiring. If that makes sense.
But we think we deserve it, so we desire it.
Yeah, we always think we deserve everything. Driven by the original desire, which is to be God. Something like that.
Alright, next paragraph. The one Supreme Personality of Godhead reveals himself to different thinkers as the Supreme Person or Impersonal Brahman or Paramatma. The impersonalists merge into the impersonal Brahman, but that is not achieved by worshipping the impersonal Brahman. If one takes to devotional service and at the same time desires to merge into the existence of the Supreme Lord, he can achieve that. If someone desires at all to merge into the existence of the Supreme, he has to execute devotional service.
How does that work? That's
Yes, that doesn't make sense.
Well, it does and it doesn't.
Sorry.
No, it's good. Say it. Say it like it is, sister. Thoughts? Read
If
on.
one takes to devotional service and at the same time desires to merge into the existence of the Supreme, he can achieve that. Okay, that makes sense. Because that's your desire. Like we were saying, I worship Krishna as baby Krishna. I worship Krishna as a Supreme Father, you know. So I want to connect with you by merging into you, you know. Right?
I get that, yeah.
If someone desires at all to merge into the existence of the Supreme, he has to execute devotional service.
Yeah, and that last sentence is an answer to what Prabhupada poses earlier, which is impersonalists merge into the impersonal Brahman, but that is not achieved by worshipping the impersonal Brahman. You understand? That last sentence that you just read is an answer or a reply or a purport, you could say, to that statement. That someone who wants to merge into the impersonal Brahman doesn't achieve impersonal Brahman realization by worshipping the impersonal Brahman. They achieve it because of devotional service.
Oh, yeah.
So basically, now, but the question in there is, well, how do they do that if they're worshipping the impersonal Brahman? Because most all Vedic paths utilize some level of deity worship. The impersonalists use it as a stepping stone to achieve what they consider the supreme goal, which is the impersonal. So they utilize the personal to achieve the impersonal. And at least what I'm understanding here, and please, if you have other thoughts, please put those in the comments, but is that you don't achieve the impersonal just by worshiping the impersonal. You have to perform some devotional service. So, and on top of that, once they achieve the impersonal, they eventually return back to try to do some service of some sort, because we are Jivara Swarupoi Krishnara Nitya Das. We're servants by nature. So in the process of achieving what they think is the goal of impersonal Brahman, they do some lower level worship, which is actually some aspect, some level of bhakti, which is what qualifies them to achieve their goal. But they think they achieved the goal for some other reason. But what I'm understanding here is Prabhupada saying the reason they achieved that goal is because they did some bhakti. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, moving on
Moving right along.
to a very long paragraph.
Yes, ma'am. The devotee can see the Supreme Lord face to face That's the bhakta. But the jnani or empiric philosopher and the yogi cannot. They cannot be elevated to the positions of associates of the Lord. There is no evidence in the scriptures stating that by cultivating knowledge or worshipping the impersonal Brahman, one can become a personal associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nor by executing the yogic principles can one become an associate of the Supreme Godhead. Impersonal Brahman, being formless, is described as adrisya because the impersonal effulgence of Brahmajyoti covers the face of the Supreme Lord. Some yogis see the four-handed Vishnu sitting within the heart, and therefore in their case also the Supreme Lord is invisible. Only for the devotees is the Lord visible. Here the statement, Drishya Debihi, is significant. Since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is both invisible and visible, there are different features of the Lord. The Paramatma feature and the Brahman feature are invisible, but the Bhagavan feature is visible. In the Vishnu Purana, this fact is very nicely explained. The universal form of the Lord and the formless Brahman effulgence of the Lord, being invisible, are inferior features. The concept of the universal form is material, and the concept of impersonal Brahman is spiritual. But the highest spiritual understanding is the personality of Godhead. The Vishnu Purana states, Vishnu Brahma Swarupena Swayam Eva Vyavastitaha. Brahmana's real feature is Vishnu. Brahman's real feature is Vishnu, or the Supreme Brahman is Vishnu. Swayam Eva, that is his personal feature. The supreme spiritual conception is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, Yadgatwana nivartante tadama paramamama. That specific abode, called Paramama, is the place from which once one attains it, one does not return to this miserable conditional life. Every place, every space, and everything belongs to Vishnu. But where he personally lives is Tad-dhamma Paramam, his supreme abode. One has to make one's destination the supreme abode of the Lord. Well, that is one heck of a paragraph, chock full of powerful information. Probably if I was an editor, I would have definitely edited that into 2 paragraphs because it seems to be 2 main topics covered there. But that's just opinion. Yeah, lots of stuff in there. Drisha, because Drisha means also, we heard at the very beginning, Drisha means Gyan, philosophical research, but Drish usually, I think, comes from also the idea of seeing. Drisha, there it is, by philosophical research and other process. Yeah, so one comes to know or comes to understand. But yeah, this point from the Vishnu Purana, Vishnu or Brahma Swarupena Swayam Eva Vyavastitaha, that Brahman's real feature is Vishnu. The Supreme Brahman is Vishnu, Swayam Eva. That is his personal feature. Means that in the Vishnu Purana, it's stating that Brahman, or the effulgence, or the impersonal, has a personal form, an origin, a swayam. Swayam vyabastitaha. Vyabastitaha means like, form. So, and swayam means original, like that. So, interesting points. Wonderful.
There's a lot there, though, like you said, it could be
really unpacked.
Yeah. But, okay.
There's a lot there. We could really unpack it, but hey, we're not going to do that for you.
Self-explanatory.
Well, like, Prabhupada mentions of the previous acharyas, they left that for you to do.
And we leave it for you.
And we leave it. So you can read and unpack. And isn't it nice to just read and unpack and discuss and talk? And this is the perfection of our lives. So thank you all very much. Please read Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam. Also, I'd like to encourage anyone out there who would like a set of Chaitanya Charitamritas. Please let us know. We're reading from the Bhagavatam, but of course, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was always relishing and hearing the Bhagavatam, and his pastimes are like the PhD study of spiritual life, because he's Krishna, who we hear about in the Bhagavatam, manifested in Kali Yuga as the Chana avatar, the hidden avatar, the golden avatar, who comes specifically, Krishna as a devotee, to give that love of Godhead. And we have access to some Chaitanya Charitamrita sets leading up to Gaura Purnima now, and just after Lord Nityananda's appearance day. You can see Lord Nityananda there. So just after Lord Nityananda's appearance day, it is time to get ready for Gaura Purnima. You can see Lord Chaitanya there. And get yourself a set of Srimad Bhagavatams. That's my hard sell. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Nitai go Premanandi. Hari Hari Bo.